Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call it November 10th, 2022 Town Board meeting in order and ask you to please rise. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this point, I'll open it to the public. Do we have anybody here that would like to say something? Please come forward. Come on up.
A frequent flyer here.
That's okay.
Hi, good evening, Christy Fraunhofer, 7209 Ave, and I would like to thank Supervisor Harrington and my family very much for helping us with the Halloween parade that we had in our neighborhood. You were amazing, and you saved the day. We have our whole neighborhood. And yes, of course, yes, Tracy. Our whole neighborhood decorates houses, and the kids zigzag back and forth. They go to every house, and some have donuts and cider and treats, and it's amazing. And we would not have been able to do it with the traffic situation this year if it wasn't for all of you. So thank you so much for making that happen. The kids had a blast. We had a blast, and we was relaxed, and we were not like, oh, the whole time. So thank you very much. And thank you for spending time with us yesterday to talk about our neighborhood.
You did notice I was grabbing candy every once in a while.
We were throwing candy to the sheriff too.
Yeah, the sheriff was very happy.
Everybody's involved, yes.
That'll be competition next year for the sheriff, see which deputy comes.
Yeah. We already have.
Well, it was a very, very, very nice affair. Neighbors down there put out picnic tables or card tables or whatever with some candy. The kids walk. It was nice. It was pretty impressive. So,
Yeah, it was a great
Yeah.
time. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this point? We got public access at the end also. If not, we can roll right into the meeting here. All right. Report by elected officials and department heads. Town clerk, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, our office will be remitting $8,158.87 for this past month. Rounded amounts, $6,098 in recycling sales, that's from the center and the office. $1,050 rental fees, there were 7 new community center reservations. $454 for dog licenses. $556 miscellaneous fees, that was $267 for vital statistics. $239 from DEC, which was our cut this past month of $5,588 in sales. And we had somebody for a peddler's permit for just a few days for $50. Things have slowed down a little bit with the licensing for hunters, but as we get closer to Thanksgiving opening week, it's usually the weekend before Thanksgiving every week. So today we had a bunch of people coming in from out of state, so we'll get a little more of that. And that's about it.
Excellent. I would like to have a motion to approve Bill's report.
I'll make it.
Can I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Mr. Bailey, Highway Department.
Had pretty uneventful month, mostly having to do with leaves and brush pickup. I'll go through the list here. We patched for 2 days. The days are usually like a 4-man crew. We patched for 2 days. Then we were installing plows and shop work for 3 days. Brush pickup we did just after last meeting was for 4 days. And Kevin did some culverts up on Charlene and up on Bald Mountain. Did some ditch work on both of those. We ditched Ty Bush and finished ditching, and Coons Road did a little bit of ditching up on Bald Mountain where we installed some culverts. Had a couple guys running around with the truck for 14 days, just picking bags up, just mountains and mountains of leaves and bags. We had 2 crews working for the last 11 days, picking up leaves, and that's just 100 tons of leaves. They're crazy. I'm impressed with how many leaves are growing this town. We mowed for a couple of days, and then, we took out a couple beaver dams that they can let them move downstream, so the ball fields would survive. And that was kind of the month. I'm pretty impressed with my crew, how fast they went from paving, dropped all that equipment, cleaned it all up, road graded, and put the trucks together. And then as soon as the trucks are done, one rain day, they had all the trucks kind of half put together, moved right into picking up leaves without any, just one day they're doing the next thing. We got some good employees.
The other thing Michael failed to mention, he's one of the first ones here in the morning, and I know he's the last one to leave every day, so I like that. So. Thank you.
Kind of fun.
Matter of fact, he said he ought to be paying us for this job, so. I don't think he's been here quite long enough. That attitude might change. Okay, and a motion to approve Mr. Bailey's report.
I'll make it.
Can I have a second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Bradley. Oh, boy.
I haven't got this voting yet. All
I don't say anything since you got the microphone.
Hey, Bill,
Right here.
pull that up a little. The mic.
Move the mic up.
There you go.
There we go.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we all made it through a election cycle.
Yeah.
Well, too much chaos. So that's great.
All good, all good.
America's doing what's supposed to be doing again. All right. Water and sewer report for October 2022. We closed our sewer and water collection on October 26th. Collected $574,961. We'll re-levy $132,327 on the January tax bill. And I was very curious as to really how does that, with the way the economy is, we did have to raise rates and how our re-levy would stand up against previous re-levies. And the re-levy for 2021 was $128,249. So people are paying their water bill and everything else pretty much the same statistical rate that they've been doing in the past. So maybe actually a little bit higher because of changing rates. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that we can keep the cash flow moving and we don't have to go out there and institute shut-off programs and everything else that just have their own set of conundrums associated with that. And then conundrums, we have new regulations to address for lead service lines. The EPA adopted rules last year and they're being rolled out and implemented for, we have to survey all the water services to determine whether or not they're a lead service. And the EPA has taken the position that if you can't determine that it's a lead service, then you have to assume it's a lead service. So there's a pretty substantial program that has to take place here to do these inspections, establish the inventory of all your water lines, and then those lines that you identify as being lead, partially lead that may have fed galvanized lines with a bunch of little things in there, then we have to institute a replacement program and start the replacement program. So we will have to have some serious conversations about this in the next 6 months to a year. We have until October of 2024 to have this completed and a plan in place. So more work, for the fact that you have a few bad actors out there in the world who didn't take their water systems seriously and have caused problems for people legitimately. So we just have, we are now, as part of all the crowd, we have to do this and spend some substantial dollars associated with it.
Is the EPA paying for it?
If you're a poor community, there's grants. If you're in our category, we're kind of like on the cusp there. Funding, like City of Troy will get grants. It's all social economically driven for the most part.
If there is a lead line going into somebody's house, the homeowner pays for the
That's,
line?
well, yes, we have to, it gets very complicated, but we do have to make a diligent effort to assist them with replacing that line. We're not responsible for paying on their side. We are responsible for doing our side.
Right.
So, you know,
Our side of the shut off,
our side of the shut
not
off,
the
yes.
meter.
But we do have to make a diligent effort to try to assist those people in finding ways to get their lines replaced. If they outright refuse, that's, you know, something that's an option, but you do have to try that mechanism. So that's all part of the program. So it's all, there's a lot to it to really get to that level. So we just, something else to just add to the list of regulatory stuff that we need to do. We've been doing meter replacements and everything else and continue to do that. I'm teaching the guys and with Wayne and everything else, we're trying to show the younger generation where all the different nuances are in the system, and they're out there with a GPS system documenting, you know, some of these areas that are kind of, they have some very odd arrangements. You know, South Road is one of them. It's just a snake's pit of lines that run around the street out there. So we're getting that, try to document that and get that down on paper so that, you know, in some period of time in the future, here when Wayne and I are not here, that we pass that knowledge on. Combination jet truck, vacuum jet truck continues to be down. Gordy's working at it as he can. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll have that back because we did find that we have a seriously plugged line down on Reed Street. It's basically a large septic tank down there. Several manholes are just filled. So we're gonna reach out to Troy and see if they can assist us next week with clearing that. So, you know, those are the everyday stuff that you gotta take care of. All right, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, a motion for Mr. Bradley's report.
I'll make it.
A second.
All in favor? Thank you. Mr. Golden, Superintendent of Utilities Inspection.
Good evening, gentlemen. This is the report for the building department for October 2022. We have 139 building and property inspections. We have 339 active building permits. 24 permits issued and renewed, 14 meetings, 2 planning board meetings, 1 zoning board meeting, 1 court case. That's a change that's on your sheets. We had 0 court cases. We actually had 1 court case, which is going to be continued into next month. 13 public complaints, 1 code call out with the inspections, 6 code complaints, 6 code complaint inspections, as well as vacant property inspections, 1 vacant and abandoned property identified, 5 planning board projects, 5 zoning board projects, and 5 photo requests, which is received. On October 18th, we had this very same number of permits issued as we had the years previous. So I haven't done this in a while, but ran the numbers where we were year to date, and I'll just do that quickly. For October of 2021, we had $1,415,053 in assessed value, with permits taken in at $10,401. On October of 2022, we had $1,184,989, with $6,658.94 collected for permit fees. So the year to date, we have for 2021, we got $8,411,375.52 valuation, with $65,831 in permit fees. And you'll see a marked difference in the 2022 numbers, where $15,048,597 valuation, with a permit fee of a collection of $90,140.38. Pretty much reflects all of the commercial development that's going on. Excellent. Any questions, gentlemen?
All these, and you know, it's an open.
Significant completion. Unfortunately, they're running into product delays with their electrical panel. The power wall is not going to be received until after January. They currently have a request out to National Grid to supply 10th 3-phase power. So I think that when I talked with the site super this morning, they did get back with them to have that done. The first, you'll see they'll be putting the binder coat down little bit before Thanksgiving for the whole parking lot. So, they've got to get the trailer moved out of there. When they're moving the trailer up, the temp power of the trailer, hopefully they'll be putting in the three-phase temporarily into the building, which will allow them to continue on. All of the refrigeration units, the heating units, it's all three-phase power. Then the temp power is only single phase, so. Yep. Where they're at.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Entertain a motion to approve Mr. Golden's report.
I'll make it. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chaffee, town attorney.
Yes, I prepared the public hearing notice for the public hearing on the 2023 preliminary budget. Prepared a special meeting notice for a special meeting to be held on November 15, 2022, regarding introductory local law number 7 of the year 2000, which pertains to a proposed moratorium on commercial solar facilities. Prepared the resolutions which are on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Worked with the supervisor's office on a complicated personnel issue and had several internal meetings and discussions with staff on that matter. We attended and participated in meetings with staff and outside counsel on various matters in town office on October 17, October 26, October 27, November 2nd, November 7, and November 9. Participated in conference calls with outside counsel, town consultants, and other town officials on October 17 and October 27. Worked with the building department regarding some outstanding alleged code violations and complaints and other outstanding matters involving the department. I worked with the supervisor's office on putting together a request for proposals for auditing and accounting services. Also worked with the supervisor's office on various other purchasing issues and personnel issues. Worked with the supervisor's office regarding required updates to the town of Brunswick personnel handbook. I assisted the building department, the town clerk, and some other town departments regarding responding to some freedom of information law requests. I've also been assisting outside counsel on a pending appeal of a response to a FOIL request issued by the town's record access officer. I reviewed and commented on various title reports, proposed easements, agreements, and other documents pertaining to the Hannaford project and proposed dedication to the town of a portion of Lord Avenue in connection with that project. Worked with outside counsel regarding deeded text changes to the decommissioning bond for the CBE North America Solar Project off Bel Air Lane. And I performed legal research, provided legal opinions, and reviewed and prepared legal documents as requested by various town officials and employees.
Any questions for Tom? I can motion to approve the report.
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Who's next, Trace? Town historian, Tracy Broderick.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
So this month, I discussed last month about the graves that we found in Forest Park, so that still remains a mystery. I reached out to Eddie O'Donnell and Doug Eddy. I did speak with Ed, and he told me that the road was there when they started to clean the cemetery when the town took over, so I'm waiting to hear from Doug. So hopefully I'll have more info next week. I do want to go down and measure the lots to see if in theory everything adds up with the map that I have, and I'm hoping to do that in the next few weeks before the snow flies. Our annual walk through the cemetery went well. It was a beautiful day. We had over 80 people who attended, so that went very nice. And in the historian's collection, I came across a newspaper called the Pittstown Sentinel, and this is the paper from the 1970s, and it covered Brunswick, Pittstown, Postonville, and Scottico. And I found some few interesting articles and ads, so I've been reviewing them and filing them accordingly. And I am still researching some of the old businesses that were once in our town, and I'll be reaching out to some of the people who are familiar with the places so I can add them to our file. That's it. Any questions?
Excellent. Any questions? Any motion for Tracy's report?
I'll make it.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Mr. Inger, where are you, Tom? Right in front.
Good evening. Recycling report for October. Blue bags purchased at the center, we did 467 at $3 for $1,401. Blue bags purchased from vendors, 930 for $2,371. Purple bags purchased at the center, 158 at $2 for $316. Mixed single stream, 11.70 tons at $35 a ton for $409. Our baled corrugated, 3.17 tons at $70 a ton for $222. Our metal, light iron, and tin, we had 1.89 tons at $140 a gross ton for $236. Car batteries, 0.79 tons at 13 cents for $206. Our miscellaneous large and small appliances, we had 18 TVs, 11, tires, 71, ACs, 7, dehumidifiers, 3 for $719, and that gave revenues of $5,881. The general expenses, the refuse landfill, 14.48 tons at $69.75 a ton plus for $1,249. CFC reclamation, 26 refrigerators, 28 ACs, 19 humidifiers, 17 propane tanks for $329. Electronics recycled, 1.38 tons with CRT handling of $314. And that gave us expenses of $1,893. The total amount recycled and landfilled for the month of October, 33.42 tons.
Excellent. Question for Tom? Entertain a motion for Mr. Ainsley's report?
I'll make it.
Have a second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brunswick Community Library. Sarah?
Hello. There we go. So for last month, the library had 2,593 visitors. We answered 487 reference questions. Our Wi-Fi was used by 188 unique users, an average of 22 people per day. Our technology was used 125 times, study spaces used 215 times. And our items were checked out 6,779 times. We did our haunted trail for October. We had almost 600 trick-or-treaters with us. Our story time is going strong. A bunch of our kids recently aged up and graduated to kindergarten, but we have a huge influx of new families, and we just want to welcome everyone who has children from 0 to 5 to join us. It's a really wonderful group. We have open story time, open play time afterwards, so it's a great time for both children and caregivers to socialize. And that is Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30 every single week. Also coming up soon, we have a Medicare seminar. We had one in October that was really popular, so we are holding another one on November 17th at 3 p.m. We have a specialist who will be answering questions for seniors about the different types of Medicare that are available. And we have a Thanksgiving book sale scheduled for the 3 days leading up to Thanksgiving, November 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And all proceeds will help benefit the library. So that is what we have going on.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Motion approved Sarah's report?
I'll make it.
Have a second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution, Mr. Lewis.
All right, not too many tonight. Resolution 70, 2022, resolution directing re-levy of unpaid vacant building registration fees.
Offer it. I'll second.
Foregoing resolution offered by Councilman Sullivan, seconded by Councilman Christian. Roll call, Councilman Sipperly.
Aye.
Councilman Christian.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balistrary.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 71, 2022. Resolution modifying and revising the 2023 preliminary budget and finally adopting the said preliminary budget as the 2023 annual budget of the town of Brunswick.
Offer. I'll second.
Foregoing resolution offered by Councilman Sullivan, seconded by Councilman Christian. Roll call vote. Councilman Sickley.
Aye.
Councilman Christian. Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balistrary.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution 72 of 2022. Resolution authorizing purchase of excavator for Town of Brunswick Highway Department.
I'll offer.
Second.
Foregoing resolution offered by Councilman Christian, seconded by Councilman Sullivan. Roll call. Councilman Sickley.
Aye.
Councilman Christian.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balistrary.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. That's it. 3.
Any correspondence, Bill?
No, I don't have anything here.
Board have any old business?
No.
Any new business? I have a little bit of new business.
Oh.
Sickaway friends might be interested. I did talk to CDTC today, who's doing the Route 7 corridor study. I knew they had their, they put that out for looking for engineers, and I knew they had it down to 2. They advised me that they have awarded the contract to get that started. They got to sign some papers yet, so the attorney will tell you that. Finalized, but they are announcing it. This Creighton Manning is the firm. They said DOT was big with a recommendation. They asked DOT, of course, DOT is working with CDTC along with the town, but those two are really the ones. They like Creighton Manning because they have somebody on staff that is supposedly a traffic light specialist, and they think hopefully some of the solutions would be the traffic light and the coordination, the new smart lights and stuff, so on and so forth. So they said that they're gonna move ahead and award that contract. Like I said, they're gonna get the paper signed. Now, so I wasn't misquoting myself. I think I'm reading this right. Part of the scope was to do the traffic study was to include the Sickaway area on both sides. So I believe, I don't think I'm just reading this, that when they look at that Route 7 corridor study, it will include what's going on in the other 2 areas. So it's another set of eyes to look at that, which is great. As I mentioned, we have got in escrow through the planning board some money from Hannaford to take a look at, and that's for traffic counts and so on and so forth.
Yes, yeah, there's some flexibility, but it's, the primary purposes was traffic counts and traffic, recording what's going on at the site now that it's open.
So I talked to Mr. Bonesteel. We have an agreement with his firm. I gotta look at the price, and if it's not very much, if we can move ahead. Gordy and myself met with 3 lovely ladies from the Sickaway area yesterday. And of course, everybody wants to get started. However, as I mentioned, I can't control CDTC. And I'm quite sure that they're waiting for all of these, because unfortunately, I'm guessing, well, here it is, it could add more traffic to your area with people coming through, hitting the light and going through, I'm guessing. But when I talked to Wayne, he agreed that it would be a good idea if we could get in there and get some counts now for the traffic, so we can get an idea of what's happening there now, and then we can compare it to what happens in the future. And the only other thing that I accomplished today or mentioned, another part of that whole study is at some point there's a public hearing, of course, but they're asking the town to think of a small citizen committee that would have to meet, people would meet, and they're saying 7 or 8 people maybe, would meet maybe only 2 or 3 times during this whole course, and asked me if I had any ideas, and I think for the board to think about it. They'd like to have somebody, I think, from both sides. I think they would like to have a business person. So I said, let's start the committee with Christy Fraunhofer. She's, we'll put her on that committee. So you'll be part of that committee and be able to meet with them, and they want to hear your concerns. So if you're willing to do that, so.
Of course.
Very willing.
I think you've been contacting me for the last 2 years. But you're from that area, then it would be very beneficial, and I appreciate that. Now, I'm not sure when this is all gonna happen. As I told you,
Anytime.
I mentioned yesterday, I get very impatient because I'm used to private business, as Gordy and some of the rest of us here. But unfortunately, the government doesn't seem to work on our agenda in terms of push, but I want to keep that going, so. So your name's on that committee, so you're number one, there's nobody else on the committee, it might be just you, I don't know.
Good ideas. Thank you.
All right, any other new business? Warrant,
I make a motion, we pay our bill.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Further comments? Come on up, Jim. Further comments from visitors?
Good evening, Jim Tashik, 387 Brunswick Road. I just want to get some feedback. I think it was in early August, there was a meeting about the status of the ambulance service.
Yep.
And that was, I don't think there was ever any minutes put out from that. I'm just curious what happened. What was how many
It was a
people?
public hearing.
Were there any people there? Or-
Yeah,
I mean,
there was.
There wasn't a public hearing.
Was it?
Wasn't, no, it wasn't, it was a public meeting, a public meeting, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't say hearing.
We had a workshop.
Right,
There
okay.
was a
So what was the upshot of it?
We have a public safety committee, which these two gentlemen way over my right are on. Go ahead.
We had a gentleman come who represented an agency that had started where kind of we were, to get a different perspective on whether we wanted to continue to pay Mohawk for the services, or we wanted to possibly look into maybe starting our own. So we wanted to collect information on that. And he came and did a really good presentation. A lot of the board members had questions that he was able to answer. We also want to go back and, oh, there goes the fire department.
Yeah.
We also want to get a different perspective from another type entity. I think Mr. Sibley is working on that now. And then we're going to have another public safety committee meeting and review the stuff, the data we collect. We also asked the county to give us call volume and times for January to September of this year for the ambulance services that we currently have. And that's where we're at. We're still collecting the information and trying to get different perspectives.
And another bit of business coming up next week on Tuesday is the solar moratorium public hearing.
Mhm. Correct.
The one of the issues, I guess, for beginning this moratorium was the pilot income from these projects. And I've been looking for a couple of weeks for the quantities of money we're talking about. I talked to the assessor, I talked to the tax collector. No one seems to know. Pat, do you know that have the numbers?
Yeah, we got, what was it, about 25,000? From the two pilots that are out there.
Well, there are three now.
Right, but is the third one coming?
How does one get this information?
We'll look in the office. I have the pilot agreement in the filing cabinet for the, what you call it, routes, which is a different animal in itself. But I'll go look through, see what I can find for the solar. They gotta be around somewhere.
Okay, but the public hearing next Tuesday, how can you, I don't know if you individually, whether you know what the quantities, the amount of money is, but without the money, how could you, knowing how much money is, how can you complain about it's not enough?
In the public hearing, that is on the pilot stuff, right?
Well, that was in the.
It was one of the bases
Right.
for the need for a moratorium, was that Well, I think what the basis was, as I recall, Jim, was that they were trying, the solar companies, they agreed to, at one point, they agreed to a particular level that these would be set on. They were fairly standardized.
Mhm.
And then now they've been saying that they want to cut that back. So I think that was the finding that the town board is going to make if they adopt the local law. That or one of the findings, that the request now is to reduce them going
Okay,
forward.
well, we can talk about this at the public hearing. I just wanted to have a rough idea of what the finances were, you know. if it's one of the-
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my hands on the solar, I mean, if you ever, one way to get a document is to file a FOIL. Well, I'm just,
I don't even know who to go to. I mean, I went,
records access,
yeah.
go down at the
All
end.
right, okay.
See, there's so many questions going on with these solars, and we've got the state, everybody else jumping in here.
Okay, yeah, I don't need to discuss this now, we can do this.
No, I know.
Public hearing.
We brought it up.
And I wasn't saying that, people, that they wouldn't want to share, but you should never feel like you have a dead end. If you want an existing document, you file a FOIL request, we have a process in place that goes through. And, but I'm not saying that the town insists on doing something like that for everything. That wasn't my point. My point was that you should never feel as though you're at a dead end wanting a particular document. And by saying that, I'm not saying that every document is available, but there's a process that it goes through, it's reviewed, and it's determined whether it's subject to disclosure.
Mhm.
That's all I was trying to say.
And, my last question is, does the town board have you had any, communication with the planning board about, for example, the new medical building on McChesney? Because there's an issue there about,
We get all the minutes, so we read them all.
We get the minutes.
about the sidewalks, for example. And this is something, if in 2013 with the comprehensive plan, and then in 2017 with the zoning, this was designated, this is gonna be a commercial area. And we're just not planning ahead enough on this. Last meeting, Gordy asked one of the speakers, the citizen speakers here, what did do about the plight of Route 7. Well, Route 7 has been really badly done, just, maybe not the town's fault, but the proper planning wasn't done. The CDTA, or, what's the
CDTC committee.
CDTC, I suggest you do something like that for McChesney now, to plan ahead, so you don't have to, in 8 years from now, you don't have to say, oh boy, 3 more pedestrians were run down on the road, sort of thing. And also, I think you have to develop some sort of projection about what kind of businesses you want there, and how densely of a commercial corridor is that going to be? Because that's the only one open right now, off of, aside from Route 7. Now is the time to start planning. Not 8 years from now when when all the trouble's already occurred. But I'm happy that you've engaged CDTC to do this, because I think it's never too late to do something. I think that things want to be out ahead of this, not behind it.
Thank you.
Jim, just a minute. Pat, in the budget under pilot, there's a total. Is there anything other than solar projects included in that?
This Rouse.
Yeah, you
Rouse has a pilot.
Yeah. Rouse is what, about 12 grand? Actually 12 grand.
12. All right, so the total pilot was 25,000 and change, let's call it for Rouse.
That's what the town gets.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, thank you.
All right, a couple comments. Jim, wondering if we talked to planning board or whatever. What happens is the planning board members, they have 7-year terms with the idea of being independent. They're appointed by the town board. We try to get a cross-section of people. So what happened is, they won't appreciate a phone call from the town supervisor, because they're gonna say, you appointed us to run the planning board, and now you're gonna tell us what to do? I mean, that's independent. And I used to like to come to the meeting, but when I came to the meeting, all the developers and stuff would turn around and say, well, you're the supervisor, what do you think? So I try to let the planning board do their own thing. I mean, I read about the sidewalk, there's concern about sidewalks and nowhere. They said they would build the sidewalk, but it doesn't go anywhere. So I think I'm reading that they feel it might be important, so if they don't build the sidewalks now to nowhere, escrow, get some money escrow from the developer. So once you figure out the sidewalk and what you're gonna do, there'll be money there from them to do that. So I'm pretty delicate not talking to all these guys. That's like the assessor. I don't ever talk to the assessor because you're gonna hear the end of that, or I won't hear the end of that. Mohawk ambulance, Jim brought up. As you know, ambulance service is a challenge. The two gentlemen, Mr. Ciperly and Mr. Ballesteri, spent a lot of time meeting with the firemen. We talked about getting our own started. What happened was we brought in a Cambridge, a very, very successful volunteer leader, right? Yeah. Who put a nice volunteer unit together up there to ask for his input. Mohawk threw some pretty large numbers out to us for dedicated ambulance, just sitting here in Brunswick doing nothing else. And then they said, if you have one, you need two, because what happens is the ambulance now, and many people know, go to the hospital, and they call it staging. It's 2 hours trying to get unloaded and get out of there, so that ambulance is tied up. So it's very difficult. We're looking at starting our own, but we've had a good relationship with Mohawk. They're professionals over the years. And what's happened is with that COVID, they lost a lot of their EMTs, paramedics. So they read the newspaper too, which is good. They read the Eastwick Press. I saw that we're meeting with the Cambridge crew, so which is great. Because all of a sudden, Mr. McPartland, Jim, who operates and owns Mohawk Ambulance, wanted to meet with me. And he said, listen, we're gonna try to do better. I mean, we had a Brunswick ambulance for years, where the game plan was in the beginning. They came to me a long time ago and just said, if you could find housing for us, we'll put an ambulance here and we'll call it the Brunswick ambulance. And then when it leaves, we'll backfill one up out of Troy. And that worked great for a good many years. But then all of a sudden things changed, labor changed. And then they came to me and said, City of Troy formed their own with a fireman. They got their own ambulance. We'd be interested in looking for a location. We're looking at Poston Hill to build a building. Would you be okay with that? I said, well, I think we have some land, or I would rather see a location in Brunswick for the ambulance, not Poston Hill. All due respect to my friends in Poston Hill. And as Jim mentioned, part of that Chesney Avenue, a little bit deep, is commercial. And my problem, not a problem, but when I talk to these businesses, everybody wants to be right on Route 7 to get seen. They don't want to be in the back. Where that hospital building, I call it, medical building is being built, Mohawk looked at that. But the price for that land was pretty dear, so they went up the road to Mr. Duncan. They were able to buy that more reasonable. As you can see, they built a beautiful facility, Mohawk building on the backside. However, now they got less and less help. So what happens is that Brunswick ambulance now, they go to Albany, and a lot of times at night there's no Brunswick ambulance here. They're down in Albany, Cohoes. So I met with Jim. He said, we got $1 million building there. We don't want to sit in there empty either. I want to work with you. I want to work with the firemen. They tell me, and I asked them to repeat it, that they answered 98% I just talked to them again yesterday. They answered 98% of the calls, which sounds high to me, but now the next question is the timing. They do get here, but sometimes it's 20 minutes or so, that they have to come up out of 787. So Jim said, what I'd like to do is try to backfill that ambulance now. And if it leaves Brunswick, and we don't have anybody, we'd like to bring one up and put it down by the Troy Plaza someplace, so it's a little closer, so we can get to Cahoe, we can get up here at Brunswick. That sounded good. And then I get around people, as you know, I talk to a lot of people, maybe too many people, but my fireman friend says that's not happening. I said, what are you talking about? They're not backfilling in the Troy Plaza, they're backfilling South Troy. So I quickly had another meeting, and I don't know if some of you people noticed, maybe I'm getting a little more cranky, but my voice gets loud, and I apologize, because besides not hearing well, when I get excited, my voice raises, my wife yells at me there. But so I met with Jim, and I said, Jim, you told me one thing, and it's not happening. And one thing that I've always insisted my whole life, and I was brought up with my mother and my father, if I tell you something, don't lie. I could tell my parents anything, but if I ever lied to them, oh boy, we didn't have lawyers back then. So I was brought up where I can handle the truth. If you don't agree with me, fine, but don't ever lie. So I said, what happened? Jim said, I'm not aware that they weren't doing what I told you they were gonna do. He got on the phone, he started screaming at the dispatcher. I don't understand. So starting last Monday, supposedly he's telling me that now he's backfilling and bringing it to Troy Plaza. But he's also telling me that they just graduated a bunch of people. His staffing is getting better. They're adding more cars. They didn't seem to have a problem during the day, where the problem was at night in Brunswick and maybe a weekend. During the day, it's been pretty good. So he promised me he's gonna work on that. He went as far as saying he's gonna work on backup, what do we call that, mutual aid? Mutual aid. Maybe with the city of Troy, maybe with Pittstown, because they backfill them. So I talk to him once a week. I'm being told that the service is better, but I'm on top of that. And whether we form our own or what, I mean, we just gotta make sure we got coverage. So Mohawk has promised me that they're gonna try to do better, and I've been seeing the ambulance rolling. I asked the firemen, they've been a lot better lately, so let's see. So I'm not forgetting what's happening here with the ambulance, so. Anybody else? Come on up and grab this point. How are you, sir?
Good. Supervisor Harrington, Councilman, I'm Harif Satyarvis, 116 Hickory Court.
I'm sorry, 116 Hickory.
Yes. So, it's been a long time since I've been here.
A long time.
A long time.
You had to use your GPS to get here.
Well, I use a lot the recycling facility here and all the other services.
So welcome again.
So I'm here because I wanted to say I'm glad I'm a resident of the town of Brunswick. We moved with the family almost 12, 13 years ago from New York City. And we are very happy for this, that we stay in the region here.
Nice.
And besides that, I wanted to share my story a little bit back in June. One late morning when I was driving up of Puzik, coming toward this area here, and I noticed one construction crane, second one, a third one, and I said, wow, there must be something happening here. And I was very glad to see that, because we discussed many times, we wanted to see this economic development and business coming into Brunswick. And I was very glad to see that. If I correctly did the calculation, it was the largest concentration I've seen of construction cranes within the capital region for years. All three there working. So all this business, they come very nicely and I like it. So I say congratulations, it's very nice. We fought against some other business before as residents of the area there, but we cannot say always no to business. We need the jobs, we need the taxes. As a matter of fact, the other day I stopped by one store and one of the service persons there was working through the delivery, through the drive-through window for food. And then a couple of days later, a local resident, he was working in another business store. So he told me, I work part-time here, I work part-time there. I said, great, I mean, we want these jobs.
Nice.
Our kids to have the jobs. And I was tired of going to Hannaford to either Windenskill or Latham for shopping. So we cannot always say no to business. I mean, we need them, we need the taxes. So that was the main reason I came here, to say that you know, many years ago, as you remember, we were against some business expansion, but now I'm more and for it, because the more they come, the more taxes and all the other associated with that. Now,
Feel free to come more often.
well, I do not hesitate, because at my organization, I do a lot of business development and work with business as a professor at the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering. We work with a lot of business. So of course, you know, I saw the video last time, I couldn't come here. There's traffic issues, but personally, having lived in New York City, I know what traffic is. So even when I go to Walmart from North Lake and there is some traffic, I say, okay, this is minimum. We can handle that. Or there are back roads. Through the Grange Road, I believe, through the North Lake, you can shortcut from there. There are ways to work it out. But I have also, because somebody was asking last time, I think Councilman Christian, bring us some solutions. And I said, since I live down there in New York City, let me propose a solution here that might not even require to do any kind of study or engineering study and pay money to do it. So in New York City, I like to work a little bit with examples. There's a highway that's called Brooklyn Queens Expressway. And south of Manhattan, that's an elevated highway that has 3 lanes going toward Manhattan from Verrazano Bridge and 3 lanes coming from Manhattan. So during the morning days, and it's elevated, so there's no space left and right, which is similar maybe to Hoosick here, the example. So in the morning, there is a machine, which I don't know how it's called, but takes the divider, which is at the center, and moves it all the way to the left. Manhattan is that way. And Verrazano Bridge in the back, which is toward Brooklyn. And makes it 5 lanes go that way, and 1 lane came out, because all the traffic goes to Manhattan. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, takes that divider and puts it back to the other side, so 1 lane goes to Manhattan and 5 coming out of Manhattan. So one day I was passing by the county offices, and I, without having an appointment or anything, I stopped by there, it was secretary, and I said, I have an idea. She was kind enough to listen to my idea, but they said, everybody's busy, you cannot express your idea. So I said, let me come here and also, beyond the economic development and the traffic that we expect, maybe my idea will work. I don't know if anybody mentioned it. The solution I'm thinking, I don't know how applicable it is, but I'm going to give you homework here to do, is that what about, let's say, in the afternoon when the traffic starts at 3 o'clock, right? Or a little bit before that. There is some, the town assigns a crew that puts some traffic cones, which are movable, which is flexible, and right from where Walgreens starts, and that's where the congestion is starting. Use the middle lane, which is the left and right turn, as flow of traffic. And then in the morning, the next day, it's going to be only for what, maybe 3 hours division, that's going to be like that. And then in the morning, maybe start from where the Walmart is or from where the Price Chopper traffic light is, and this is what, maybe half a mile, less of half a mile, and move the cones, not leave them there overnight, but move the cones and have two traffic lanes going toward Troy. So I think that's an easy way. Somebody can tell me, okay, and how do I make a left turn? Well, how people may, or drivers make a left turn when they go up Huzik and they want to go toward to Hilton for Canada. They cut the traffic, they wait for a second or two, or maybe 20 seconds, they make a left turn and the traffic flows. Now, permanently, somebody makes a left turn. So if this is applicable and if this can be applied, I think it would be at least a right now temporary solution until, later on, another more permanent solution is found. So I don't know if whoever regulates it, the county is okay with that. I hear that's a county road, right? I don't know who else
State,
can help
state.
me.
The state road.
The state road.
State.
Why the state to say no anyway? I don't understand. Right, I mean, the town wants it, and if at the end works, it might be a viable solution. We don't need the machine, we don't have like the machine that they deployed, the New York City has. We don't have a permanent divider, which is gonna be ugly, but having something like that, some traffic cones, and pay extra probably for the town employees to go with a nice truck, the red trucks. I see them all in my area, picking up the leaves and everything, and we're very happy. And I say hi to them. So I came to just offer this as a solution, not to, maybe ease the problem, especially now with Thanksgiving coming, Black Friday, and all the people, tomorrow schools are closed, so the traffic is going to be even more. But I understand, development comes with traffic. We cannot have it all. And the first is use alternative ways. The second is, I like to use also Huzik, but I think that might be what might be possible. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you also.
Good to see you again. We have tried to talk to the state before, and they have to be careful here. I don't know if they're real interested in doing a lot of talking with the towns. So that's one thing about this grant that we're able to get. It's a federal grant, and DOT signed into it. So now we got the federal and the state and the town. So maybe somebody will listen to some of these suggestions that we have. So, and you're right. That was what all these years in the old days. And sometimes I like to go back to the old days, but financially we can't. That was all we ever heard. If we wanted anything, we got to go across the river. If we want to go to a grocery store, there's nothing here. There was a hardware store that my father-in-law owned, Pollock's, and he said, I'm the only game in town. So he did quite well over the years. I think my wife is listening here, but anyway, she won't argue. So people said we get less and less time. We got families, we want sports, we want to do this. We don't want to drive over to Latham to go to a hardware store. We don't want to drive over to a grocery store if we need something from Agway or Tractor Supply or something like that. So that was what happened a little bit, whether it's out of control business-wise, but that was one thing that led to this. And the other big thing that led to it was, as I mentioned, and I'll stop talking, well, we'll have a short meeting. Everybody I went to school with, as I mentioned, their parents got older and they started yelling at me, saying, well, we have a single-family home, we can't take care of our homes. You don't have any condominiums here, you don't have any apartments here. And Doris Schaefer, Ralph Schaefer, nice older gentleman, Tom, and family, yelled at me because they had to go to Lansingburg and they're Brunswick people. So why the hell don't you have some kind of condominium or apartment so we can stay here? So what we did was we looked at this area with water and sewer, and that's where the apartments started, so they had options. But what happened was people moved in, and now all of a sudden the businesses said, wow, there's a lot of people in this little area. So that's why all of a sudden the Nigro of the world wants to buy Pollock's and these businesses. And Route 7, as we said, you know, it's, everybody's going to Vermont, everybody's using that road. So, you know, the idea, we could grab some sales tax, but I know what happens is in your area now it's overflowing. So it's a continuing challenge. Anybody else at this point? Now, what I'd like to do is maybe adjourn this meeting in memory of all our veterans. Since tomorrow's Veterans Day, and maybe we can have a moment of silence for all of our veterans. And I thank you, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you.
We'll figure it out.
The battery's almost dead.
Can't see this. Hey, Chuck.
Someday if you get one of those owls around, text me, I'll come down.